Alright, guys. Hello. I haven't done one of these in a long time, but I figured I should do it to this game, this series of games, because I really loved this game. So I figured why not? So what I'm going to be doing is a Mass Effect Trilogy review. Now I'm going to break down to each game, all three games, the first, the second, and the third games. So I am going to break it down. But it's going to be in each, and then I'll give a rating for each game, what I think of each game is, and also what the game for the trilogy in all is. If anybody's ever watched any of my reviews in the past, my reviews basically go based off three pros and cons. I usually give what's good and what's bad about the game and what I think about it, and I'll break it down to each game. So, anyway, as we start, we're gonna start with Mass Effect 1. Now, Mass Effect 1, a lot of people don't like. I did go through all three of them. I have them on my YouTube. So if anybody's interested, please go back to them and everything. Um, Start with some pros. All right, so pros wise, first pro I give is loot. The loot system, and the reason I bring this up is if you ever played the first two and X2, there's no loot system in this. This one's the only one that has it, and I love loot. In most games, loot is one of my favorites. Um, so um, so yeah, so loot system is really good. It does have a shit ton of it. There's all kinds of different ones. Each weapon has a version of it, 1 through basically 10. Some of them only go up to 6 or 7, I think it is. But for the most part, there's a really good loot. All of it is very fun. Loot system in any game typically is my favorite part of any type of game because I don't know why, I'm just a loot crazy kind of guy. Um, but this game, first one does really well with the loot system. It isn't the most loved game, so this is not in any of the other games. The loot system in the game is gone after the first one. So it is my opinion. Again, some people don't like it. I love the loot system in this. The second thing I would give is characters. Now you're gonna see this one repeated multiple times. The characters development in all three of these is fantastic. So I'm gonna hit this multiple times. This game is no exception. The characters that you get to play with, your friends, everything, the characters, the villains, everything about this is just they're well designed, and you love, hate, don't care for them because that's what their characters are designed to do, and they do it so well. It's crazy. I loved it. I love the characters. It's one of my favorite parts about this game. Next pro is villain. Now, in all of the Mass Effects, this one has the best villain in the game. Saren, or whatever his name is. He is probably the best. Ultimately, I don't know why. He's just you grow to hate him. You don't like him. You're like, ah. And then you finally you start to understand him, and his development is just does really well. They did very good with the villain, so I had to give him. I had to put him as a pro because he's just well done. So with that, here comes the cons. So, couple cons here. One of the biggest cons about this game is it's a slow beginning game. Now, if anybody's ever played RPGs in their time, most RPGs are very slow in the beginning. They're very more walk around, talk to people. get to basically get the start. You know, the the things. This one is no exception. This one does a very rough part of it. It is very beginning. The beginning of the Citadel is so miserably slow. It is miserable. It's very miserable. So people take a lot of time. You have to do a lot of side missions, meet the characters. But by the time you leave that area, you pretty much have all the characters that you're gonna carry through the game. So that's kind of nice. It's different from the other two because the other two you have to collect throughout the game. This is no different. The gameplay you're seeing in the other screen is Mass Effect 3. So if anybody's not understanding this, is basically what it is. Anyway, the slow beginning just it takes forever and it kind of turns away a lot of people. A lot of people. So if you're not careful and you're not interested in it slow, it's gonna bore you. Next con I'd have to give is the no return. And what I mean by there no return is this game has a point of no return, but you don't know about it. You have no idea. There's no like if you do this mission, there's no returning and it's over. No, no, no. No, no. You'll get to a point where you're going to the mission and you're like, "Oh, um there's no return. Fuck. I didn't save. Shit." Now you have to rebat. It is it is sneaky and it's a pain in the ass. I knew about it because I researched it. I checked it out. I looked into it before I did anything with it. I made sure that excuse me. I didn't go to that mission before I was made sure that all side missions, all everything was done before I went there. But if I didn't research it, I would have had no idea, and I would have gone into the mission and done it. It's just a. I wish if the game would have been like, hey, and it doesn't have to be like break the game and be like, oh wow, I really didn't want you to tell me that. But like something like, hey, Commander, if you go here, we probably won't be able to come back from this. But they don't. There's nothing. You have no idea. So it's just a con that I don't like. The next thing is Mako. The Mako is a tank-like ship thing that you get to control off this place in some of the missions, and not only that, what else? And when you're doing the side checking out planets, it's in there. Its controls is miserable. It is annoying. Um, it's slow on some points. It can be a pain in the ass. It's flighty. It's just not my favorite. I'm not a fan of the Mako. I don't really care for it. Um, so I had to put it as a con. So with everything saying, I'm gonna have to give Mass Effect 1 a 7 out of 10. It is good. A lot of people don't like 1. I liked it. I enjoyed it. I had so much fun with 1. So I don't know why people don't like it. Some people don't even play it. I knew people that rather play the second one and third one, or just go to the third one without playing the first one. I do not suggest that. But yes, it is definitely a good game. So the next game I'm gonna have to go with is, of course, Mass Effect 2. Um, and let's start it right off the bat with some pros. Pros. One of the pros is armor. The reason why I say armor, in the original one, there isn't. In the first one, there is loot for armor, Um, but the loot for the armor is it's like change colors or it looks different a little bit, but it doesn't do anything. While in 2, they change it dramatically. It's changed to where you can actually customize what your shepherd's armor is going to look like a little bit. You can make the patterns and stuff like that. And then there's armors that there's sets that do certain things. Like in 2, I played with the Infernal armor. So it was just a red suit that looked like a space marine type character. I couldn't really do anything else, but it gave me different stats because I had that on. And the same happened with other armor sets, the priests. If you had certain arms, legs, helmet, anything like that, um, it would really look. It would change your stats, more shield, more damage, whatever. That's the armor does that. Of course, armor in the first one did give change your stats, but it's just it felt a little more overall than the first one. And of course, the next pro is definitely characters. Again, they did no harm with the characters. They did really good. They even upped it and brought in loyalty missions where each character in your game had a little bit of a story backstory about themselves. You get to learn a little bit more and get to understand them, and then do these missions that revolved around them, and you get to be them, and it's so good. Like I was so happy to do like Zahid's mission to understand why he is and why he's being a dick, and Tali's mission and Jax and all of them. You get to learn a little bit of the story and kind of change who they can be, and it's just so good. They not only did the first one did good, but this one did good with the characters and just upped it. So I loved it. Another pro is abilities. In the first one, pretty much if you were one class or the other, that's what your abilities. Same as your characters you played as, Lior or Rex, all them. I mean, for the races they had a different special ability, but for the most part in the first one, they were all pretty much the same abilities amongst them all. In this one, the class you pick is based off, you'll get a choice of like 5 abilities or whatever. And each character after that, like Tali, Zahid, all of them, they all play different. They all are their own abilities. Tali plays with a lot of drones and technology, while Zahid played more of a destruction, like fire and battle. Like each character that you brought had a special abilities that nobody else would really have. There might be a little bit of a similar things here and similar things there, but it ultimately the abilities felt different and they felt unique to each character, so they did better in that part, in my opinion. So I really like that factor. All right, so we've gone with our pros. Let's go with the cons. Cons. One of the cons that I'm gonna have to put down here is guns. Guns in Mass Effect 2 is lacking. Now I know the first one has a shit ton to the point where it drowns you in them, but there's so little, it is annoying. I think assault rifles you get roughly around 8. Shotguns I think it's roughly around 6. Sniper rifles I think it's like 4 or 5. Heavy pistols and SMGs I think it's like 3. And yeah, those are your gun types. There's only so many. At like halfway point of the game, it feels like you already have all the guns in the game. There might be a couple here and there, but for the most part, you have all the guns, and they just don't feel that great. Like I just like, wow, what happened to the? They got rid of, they completely eradicated the loot system from the game. Um, and I was gonna put as a con, it feels more of an action than an RPG compared to the first and second one. But you know what? I don't think that's much of a con because the game still feels good and it plays good. This is a big con. The guns just don't feel good. They just don't. I hated the fact that the guns just they wasn't there. I was like, wow, like what am I collecting? Most of your game, you're collecting resources or credits. That's all you're collecting in the second one, so it's not that great. The next con I'm gonna give is little bantering. Now, if you play the first one, bantering is a big deal. Like when you're walking around or in the elevator scenes, which people hate, but I loved. Your two characters you brought, which in the first one I had Rex and Leora, in the second one I had Tali and Zahid. Okay, those were my main characters that I used. So when you have those characters in the first one, they'll sit there and chit chat, or they'll even join in your conversation. So if you're having a conversation with Joe Schmode over here about something, you come up to him and you're like, you know, Rex might have a little line. It may not be big, but he might be like, "Go fuck yourself." Something crazy that would make it feel like he was a part of this. And the second one, it's almost eradicated. It's almost gone. There are some parts here and there. You might get a little bantering while you're walking around the place or whatever, but not much. And the issue with that, I mean, yes, you probably could argue with me. Well, if you would have brought this person on this mission with this person, Jin, you would have those banterings. I shouldn't have to have that. I shouldn't have to choose, oh, because I want bantering, I should bring these two people. No, I want to bring who I want, and I want them to have some talk into this and act like they're more humans. Because in 2, it's like a fucking robot. Like 2 people. I mean, I remember very clearly there was a mission. Tali's loyalty mission. And then at one point you're talking to her people or whatever, and I had Zahid with me, and guess who was in the back? Zahid. He's sitting in the back on the stairs, just sitting there. No conversations, no nothing. And during the mission, yes, Tali had her bantering, her talks, because it was her mission. And everybody that had loyalty always had those banterings back and forth and talks. But the other person didn't. It was no different. Like, the person was just there. He was basically a gunner. Merc. That's how it felt. And it didn't feel like a team. It felt boring. Like, the bantering in the first one, some of them are hilarious. Some of them are interesting. You know, all of it felt great. And I loved it. And the fact that they got rid of it in 2 was a kind of a disappointment. To the point where I hated it. So I didn't like it at all. The next one, con, is sneaky no return. Now, as I spoke as the first one, there is no return section. This one's even worse. There's a mission that, and I won't go too far because I don't want to spoil the game if nobody's ever played the game. I know it's been a long time before since this game has been out, but still want to make sure I don't spoil it. But there's a point where you can do a mission, and if you do a mission, an invisible countdown will come up. You don't know about it. But if you do it, after so many missions after that, you automatically get put into the end game. And you have no idea about this. Like, it's not like you're like told, hey, if you do this, we're gonna only have this much, or hey, if you do this, this is gonna happen. There's no indication, and if you're not careful, you could get really fucked and miss out on side missions. And because this game revolves around depending on how you do things or what you do in the game, it will depend on what happens at the end of the game. If this happens to you, you could lose out on a lot of things for the third one. So it is bad. So if anybody ever plays Mass Effect 2 or even 1, just look at because most guides will say spoilers beyond this point, but this is a no return point. I didn't read further. I just went, okay, that's the mission I gotta be careful on. Don't do this or I'm fucked. Good enough. And I walked away from it. I didn't want to know more about it. I just wanted to make sure there was no point because I already knew there was points in the game where there was no return, but there was no indication, so that I already researched it. So with all those pros and with all those cons, I am going to give Mass Effect 2 a 6.5. Now, why better worse than one? There the things that I did not like into really broke too. The little bantering is the biggest thing, and the loot system where there's lack of guns to the point where it doesn't feel like you got much of an armory to choose from. Um, yeah, really broke it to the point where I had to bring it down a half a point. The good stuff just didn't amper it enough. The gameplay is still fantastic. It is still worth a play, and I suggest playing all both of these two. So, with that said, guys, the next one, things here, is Mass Effect 3, the very last one of the series. So let's jump right into the pros. First pro, decisions impact. Now, you do feel this in 2. Some of the decisions and things you did in 2, in 1, will affect you in 2. But you really feel it in 3. The things you do in 1 and 2 affect you in 3. Hardcore. People you let survive, people you let that you killed, or what you did to certain people, or blah blah blah, and especially to your crew in the past, really comes out of this. Comes out hard. Like you like, oh my god, I did that. That feels good. And when they name off somebody else, you might, if you like, I had to play it throughout the time. It took me a while. You kind of like, who was that? And then you get that glimpse. Oh yeah, shit. I remember you. It makes you feel like, wow, I did that, and it's great. And there are points in 3 that makes you go, shit. I'm glad I made that happen. That's awesome. It made you feel good. And then some of those decisions, you're like, oh man, why did I fucking do that? That's stupid. Like it makes you realize that your decisions mattered, and it's good. It feels good. The next pro is definitely characters. Again, I keep hitting this hard in this game, and I told you it was going to be repeated. They did so well. Like all the characters, and yet the character roster you can play with is smaller than 2. 2 had like 13 people you can use in your crew, while 1 had 7, and I think that 3 had 7 too. It's smaller, but all the characters that you played with in the past that you may not be able to play in this one come back in the third one, and at least show up and have conversations. And you might have them as a side friend that will join you in for like a mission or two. But for the most part, they're just kind of like there. But you still get to feel like they're part of your crew, and they're good people. Like you love them. You still love every single one of them. A big pro here, a huge pro. The world feels alive. Okay, and this is no joke. You would go onto your ship, and you would go around your I always made a point to go around my ship to check on my people, to check on everything, and people would disappear. You'd be like, wait the fuck, where the where are you? And you'd find them. You find one of your characters, JVAC, in the third one. He's not in his chambers one day. I went up to him. Where'd he go? I went down below. He was down where a certain character from 2 was, and it was like, oh, there's a lot of anger. And then you're like, yeah, it's because of this person here. Oh shit! Like it just what? Like it's so small, but it feels so good. Like you go to the Citadel, and the people around there are talking, and you're like, oh yeah, I can help that person, and you go and help that person. Like you don't have to. It's a side mission, but it makes you feel like the world, and it. A lot of people change where they go, what goes on. Your people are on and off the Citadel with you. They don't just stay on the ship or just appear out of nowhere or don't appear anywhere. They actually feel alive. They feel human. It feels like you're not just. They just as soon if unless you're in a mission with them, they're nowhere to be found. No, no. they move around, they talk. You could come into a ship room and one of your shipmates are talking to one of your other shipmates, like just chit chatting, like a conversation, and they're like, "This feels good. This is awesome," and you're just sitting there listening, and it's so interesting. It's so good. It is feels amazing, and I will say this to my heart: this is a big, big, big pro. Loving it, love it, love it. So let's go with the cons. Cons. One of the ones is repeatable mission types. So what I mean about this is there are mission types in the game where you have to go to mission or whatever. You have to do these side missions or main mission. And most of them, there's a lot of them like this, where all you do is you go and you fight waves of enemies. That's all you do. You land on a place that is designed for a small area. You start fighting, and you fight and fight and fight, fight, fight until all enemies are dead, and then you leave. That's your mission. No joke. I'm not joking. That is your mission. You go there, fight, 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 leave. Unless it's a big mission, a huge story point mission where you actually have to go and interact with people, then yes, those points are a little more unique. But there's a lot of missions where you just land, do missions, kill lots of people, leave. Mission over. Game over. Boring. Did not like it. Wasn't a fan of that effect. I didn't really care for it. So, next con, it's kind of like meh. It's not a big con, but it's something that I kind of hate. The dialogue. It's either good or it's evil. 2 kind of brought this up too, but I really wanted to bring it up in 3 more than anything because it just feels more extreme in 3. But 2 and 3 did this, where it was either good or evil. You either did a good thing or a bad thing. And some of them is like, well, I don't really want to do this good thing. This doesn't sound really what I would do. But if you do the bad thing, you deal with a renegade stat. And you're like, oh, I want to do Paragon. Well, what do you do? Because I was pure good, and I wanted to be pure good. But just some of those things is like, what? Why? Why is this a thing? In the first one, they didn't do this. I mean, they still had the good and the evil, but they always had a neutral, where you could kind of choose the neutral side. 2 got rid of it, and then 3 is more intense with it. So, it's understandable. I have that just because it's loud out there. So yeah, the dialogue is just it. I wish there was more of a variety, or made you feel like you had more of a choices. If you didn't, it didn't feel like I had many choices. Either good, bad. And if you watch my gameplay of 3, a lot of my conversations always went straight to the top. Boom, good. Boom, good. I didn't even read the last one because I knew I wasn't going to choose it because of Paragon side. Boom, boom, boom. So it kind of like I didn't really have a choice. It was more of a, do I want good or bad? Good or bad? Good or bad? So the next con, and this only affects you near the end of the game, but it happens. Karma quick actions misleading. Now, 2 brought this in where there's a karma quick action. Certain points of the game, you either have to press 1 button for the good, 1 button for the bad. Now, when I say 1 button for good, button bad, that doesn't mean like both will punch up and you have to press one or the other. It's at points you might get a renegade pop up. If you don't want renegade, you don't touch it. It just goes to nothing. Hey, please stop. And same thing as Paragon. 1 button will pop up, and it might happen. So and so. So if you like it, you know, you might choose what you want. I mean, you might just go crazy, but some of those things will happen. Sometimes, like, Renegade will pop up, and if you don't press it, then eventually a Paragon will pop up, and vice versa. And what I mean by misleading is there are points in 3, closely to the end, but that, like, for me as a Paragon, that Renegade would pop up, and I didn't want to press it, and an action would happen, and I'm like, what? I didn't want that to happen. Why did he? But because I didn't press the Renegade, because I'm not a Renegade, I lost out on an action that I wish I've done instead. And it really upset me. It was misleading. You don't know what it's gonna happen, and if you did it, like I don't know what that means. Like, am I gonna I'm gonna hurt that person that I don't want to hurt? Like, it was very misleading and it was very annoying. I wasn't a fan. So I didn't do it. I'm not. So that's why I put it in as a con. So, um, with that said, with all those pros and cons, I give Mass Effect 3 a 8 out of 10. Now, I gave 8 out of 10 because this game is so fucking good. I loved 3. The loot system isn't as like the first one, but the loot system went better. You have a shit ton of guns still. Um, I mean, at one point, I think I had 5 or 6 pistols, each SMG and pistols. You have like 12 assault rifles, 10 to 11 shotguns, and then there's like 5 or 6 sniper rifles. And I didn't even I collected them all that you could, but I didn't buy all of them. And then you can upgrade all your weapons and your armor and everything. It just everything about this game they did so well. And the bantering came back from the second one. I fucking laughed my ass off a couple of times when my two people would just chit chat in the background or they join in the conversations. It just felt good. Felt good. And I loved every bit of it. This game was fantastic. So I gave it an 8 out of 10. And I know, well, why not a 9? Why not a 10? There are still things that I just didn't like. The mission types can get very repetitive, so it just gets boring. It's not fun after a while. So, now that is Mass Effect 1, 2, and 3. I am going to give you a rating for all 3 of them. For the series itself. And for the series for itself, I give it a 9 out of 10. And you're like, why so high compared to any of the other games? Because the game itself, each game itself is good. So if you never played 2 or 3, this is what it is. If you never played so and all that, if you play all 3 of them, this is what I give it. I give Mass Effect 3, Mass Effect 1, 2, and 3, the trilogy, a 9 out of 10. A well worth gameplay that I recommend to anybody and everybody to play 1, 2, and 3. Not just 2 and 3, not just 3, 1, 2, and 3. Everything you do in each one of the 3 games feels different, feels good. It's interesting, it's fun. Like, oh my god, yes, there are parts in each one that are gonna make you go. Like, one, you're gonna be bored at first. But if you just power through it, play the game, play the story, have fun with it, you're not gonna, and they're not that long. They're 20 to 30 hours. Maybe 40 max if you decide to do every little thing that I did. It took me, I think, about 40 to 50 hours for both 2 and 3. And I think 1 took me 20 to 30 hours. And that's me doing everything that I possibly could. So I'm a big completionist. So this is no different. I highly suggest play 1, 2, and 3. Play the trilogy. The Legendary Edition is out right now for all systems. Buy it. Play it 1, 2, and 3. Now, there are parts that you could do 2, then 3, but it doesn't feel so great. I suggest play 1, 2, and 3. Please, you're gonna enjoy it. You're gonna have fun. If you're a big storytelling character that loves to, shoot the shit out of people, use different powers, customizing your character, making it feel like it's your person, your decisions, your life, this game does it fantastically. So, with that said, guys, I hope you like the review. It isn't much. I will try to keep trying to do more of these reviews. I don't get much time in my day with streaming and playing video game and working on my day job. I don't get a lot of time. So I'm sorry, but I hope you guys like the review. Please comment, like, share, and please join the Twitch stream, Midnight 5200, and come and join the fun. Watch me play more story games or even Dead by Daylight. So thank you guys, and Shepherd out.